The reclamation ash still falls on Tertius Hive. It has been falling for 11 years. I know because I count the days. I am the only one left who does. The ash is grey when it lands, turns black when it settles, and tastes of promethium and bone when the wind carries it through broken windows. The Imperium liberated us from chaos. Then they forgot we existed. My name is Davros Kael, and this is how I learned that salvation and damnation wear the same face. I was coordinator of reclamation logistics, 4th District, Tertius Hive. Not a soldier, not a hero, a clerk who managed salvage operations after the liberation. My job was efficient resource recovery. The Administratum valued efficiency above all else. I was very good at my job. The liberation itself lasted 6 days. The occupation lasted 3 months. The abandonment has lasted 11 years. I remember when they arrived. The Astra Militarum drop, ships screaming through atmosphere thick with the smoke of burning heretic shrines. We prayed as we hid in the lower levels. We prayed to the Emperor for deliverance. The chaos cultists who had seized the hive during the uprising prayed to their dark gods. The Emperor answered first. The Cadian 19th Regiment established field command in what remained of the Administratum complex. I reported for duty on the 2nd day of occupation. The halls still smelled of lasgun discharge and burning flesh. A major with augmetic eyes and 3 days of stubble assigned me to salvage coordination without looking up from his data slate. He handed me Form 6623, Sigma, Reclamation Protocol Authorization. The paper was warm from the portable printer. His fingers left dirt marks on the corners. My first assignment was cataloging bodies, not combat casualties. Those went to the Administratum Munitorum for processing. My responsibility was civilian dead, citizens killed in crossfire, citizens executed for suspected collaboration, citizens who starved during the 3-week siege. The difference between categories mattered for resource allocation. Combatants were recycled through standard Mechanicus protocols. Civilians required sanctification rites before processing. Different paperwork, different quotas. I spent 8 hours a day in the mortuary sublevel for 6 weeks. The temperature was kept at 4 degrees. Cold enough to slow decomposition. Cold enough that I wore 3 layers and still shivered. The servitors working the conveyor systems clicked and hummed as they sorted bodies. Organic components for biologist reclamation. Metallic augments for Mechanicus recovery. Clothing for textile reprocessing. Nothing wasted. I believed in the work. Believed that proper documentation honored the dead. That efficiency in tragedy was a form of respect. The Emperor valued order. I provided order. There was dignity in that. The forms were simple. Name if known. Age if estimable. Cause of death from approved list. Reclamation category. Signature. The Administratum had been processing dead citizens for 10,000 years. The paperwork was refined. I processed 417,000 names in 42 days. Some entries troubled me. Category 7 purge actions appeared frequently. I asked my supervisor what it meant. She was a woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled tight and hands that never stopped moving through documents. She glanced at the form, then at me, then back to her work. Pre-emptive cleansing operations. Suspected taint among population segments. Standard procedure following chaos incursion. Send and file. I signed and filed. I believed her. Why would I not? She had served the Administratum for 38 years. I had served for 6. She knew things I did not. By week 7, the mortuary processing was complete. The Cadian 19th began redeployment preparation. I filed daily reports on salvage operations. Metals recovery exceeded projections. Textile reclamation met quota. Water purification systems required replacement parts. Food stores critically depleted. Medical supplies exhausted. The reports were thorough. I was proud of their thoroughness. The commissar overseeing civil administration reviewed my final assessment. He was young for his rank, perhaps 30, with ritual scars on both cheeks and an augmetic hand that clicked when he turned pages. He read for 11 minutes without speaking. Then he looked at me with eyes that contained something I did not yet understand. You believe the Administratum will read these reports? Yes, Commissar. Resource allocation depends on accurate field data. You believe supply ships will arrive. The requisition forms are properly filed. The Administratum Munitorum requires 6 to 8 months for processing and transport. The timeline is established. He was quiet for a long time. His augmetic hand tapped the desk 3 times. Then he stood and walked to the window overlooking the hive. Half the city still smoldered. The other half stood empty. The Cadian 19th deploys in 4 days. We are needed in the Nachmund Gauntlet. 3 regiments are already overdue. The Astra Militarum does not have forces to garrison every world we liberate. The Arbits will maintain order. The Ecclesiarchy will rebuild faith. The Administratum will coordinate reconstruction. The Arbits precinct was destroyed in week 2. Cultist sabotage. The Ecclesiarchy lost 90% of its priesthood to the uprising. The Administratum complex houses 47 personnel for a hive of 6 million. I did not understand. Then how will governance function? Governance will not function, not for years, maybe decades. The priority is strategic. Tertius Hive controls nothing the Imperium requires immediately. No strategic resources. No forge complexes. No Teth-grade populations. You are liberated. You are forgotten. Those are compatible states. But the reports, the requisitions, the supplies we need, will be processed. Eventually, the Administratum does not discard paperwork, but processing time for non-critical worlds averages 40 to 90 years. Your children's children may see those supply ships. You will not. Something in my chest tightened. Then what are we supposed to do? Survive, or don't? The Emperor protects the Imperium. Whether he protects individual worlds is a theological question above my rank. He left the next morning. The Cadian 19th departed 3 days later. Their drop ships rose through ash-grey clouds and did not return. We watched from the Administratum steps. 47 personnel. 6 million citizens. The silence after the engines faded was total. I kept working. It was what I knew. What I was trained for. The Administratum complex had power from a geothermal generator that predated the uprising. We had water from underground reservoirs. We had the records. We had procedure. Procedure mattered. For the first month, I processed civic restoration forms, submitted them to the Administratum database via the complex's Vox relay. The database accepted them. Confirmation codes appeared on my data slate. The system worked. I believed that meant someone was listening. For the second month, I coordinated scavenging operations. Citizens needed food. The Astra Militarum had left supply caches in 7 locations. I organized distribution schedules, rationing protocols. First come, first served created violence. We needed order. I provided order. 4,000 citizens received rations weekly. It was not enough. It was better than nothing. For the 3rd month, I watched the fights outside the Administratum complex escalate. Citizens who did not receive rations blamed citizens who did. Citizens who lost families to Category 7 purge actions blamed the Administratum. I tried to explain that I only filed the paperwork, that I did not make the decisions. That proper documentation protected everyone. A man spat at me. His daughter had been processed as Category 7 purge. She was 9 years old. I found her file. Cause of death, suspected genetic taint. Evidence proximity to cultist activity in Sector 19. No trial recorded. No investigation details. Just a signature and a date. I tried to explain that I did not sign the execution orders. That I only recorded them. That documentation was not culpability. He asked me if I slept well. I did not have an answer. The food ran out in month 5. The Astra Militarum caches were empty. Citizens began leaving the hive to scavenge the agricultural zones. 40% never returned. The agricultural zones had been battlefields. Unexploded ordnance. Chem weapon residue. Feral cultist remnants hiding in the ruins. But staying meant starvation. Leaving meant possible death. Possible was better than certain. I kept filing reports. Submitted them to the database. Received confirmation codes. The system acknowledged my work. That had to mean something. In month 7, I found something wrong. Not obviously wrong. Procedurally wrong. I was reviewing historical purge records to establish precedent for current food crisis management. Standard Administratum practice. Learn from prior operational data. I accessed archived files from Tertius Hive's last major chaos incursion, 900 years prior. The records were comprehensive. The Administratum never discarded paperwork. The final purge action count from that liberation was listed as 612,000 citizens. The liberation had freed a hive of 4 million, 15% of the population processed as Category 7 purge. The recent liberation processed 417,000 citizens total, but Category 7 purge accounted for 391,000 of them. 94% of all deaths. I reviewed the current records more carefully. Cross-referenced execution dates with investigation completion dates. 140, 7,000 Category 7, purge executions were dated before the investigations that supposedly justified them were filed. I sat in my office for 2 hours without moving. The data slate screen dimmed from inactivity. I did not touch it. Outside, citizens fought over water rations. Inside, I stared at numbers that could not be correct. Pre-dated executions were impossible. You could not sentence someone before investigating them. That was not order. That was murder disguised as procedure. I checked again. I had made an error. I must have made an error. I was tired. 11 months without relief. The stress was affecting my cognition. I rechecked the dates. The numbers did not change. I accessed the investigation files themselves. 147,000 cases. I read 20 before I understood. File 8847 Theta. Subject Mirana Vex, age 44. Occupation textile worker. Charge possession of heretical materials. Investigation report verdict guilty. Sentence execution. Date of sentence day 3 of liberation. Date of investigation completion day 18 of liberation. File 848 Theta. Subject Corvin Mast, age 52. Occupation water reclamation engineer. Charge collaboration with chaos forces. Investigation report. Evidence. Verdict guilty. Sentence execution. Date of sentence day 3 of liberation. Date of investigation completion day 21 of liberation. 15 days between sentence and investigation. 18 days between sentence and evidence gathering. They were executed before anyone examined whether they were guilty. I read 50 more files. Then 100. The pattern was absolute. Every Category 7 purge execution during the first week was predated. The investigations came later. The investigations always confirmed guilt. How could they not? The subjects were already dead. I checked the signatures on the execution authorizations. Inquisitor Marin Voth, Ordo Hereticus. The same signature on every form. Fluid, practiced, mechanical. The signature of someone who had signed 10,000 death warrants and would sign 10,000 more. I submitted a query to the Administratum database. Request for clarification on procedural compliance. I used proper channels. Followed protocol. I was good at protocol. The response came 6 hours later. 4 words. Query noted. Await instruction. I waited. No instruction came. In month 9, citizens began dying of starvation in appreciable numbers. Not a few. Not occasionally, daily. The medical facility had no staff. No supplies. No capacity. Bodies accumulated in the streets. No one had strength to move them. The reclamation servitors had powered down months ago. No maintenance, no oversight, just metal and flesh going still. I organized volunteers to burn the bodies. It was more sanitary than leaving them. We used promethium from abandoned Astra Militarum fuel depots. The smoke was thick and black and smelled like cooked meat. It rose into grey skies and mixed with the ash that still fell. Ash from fires during the liberation. Ash from fires now. The city was becoming ash. A woman asked me why the Emperor had not sent help. I told her the supplies were requisitioned. That processing took time. That the Imperium was vast and coordination required patience. She asked me if I believed that. I did not answer. In month 11, someone broke into the Administratum archive. Not for supplies, for records. They stole the purge files. All of them. 390, 1,000 executions. They wanted proof. I found the archive door smashed open the next morning. The shelves empty. I should have reported it immediately. Theft of Administratum property was a serious offense. I sat in the empty archive for 4 hours instead. The silence was total. No servitors. No staff. Just me and rows of empty shelves. I thought about the files. About Mirana Vex who died before investigation. About the man whose daughter was 9 years old and processed for proximity to cultist activity. About 147,000 citizens sentenced before evidence existed. I did not report the theft. In month 13, I found one of the stolen files in the ruins of Sector 8. Someone had pinned it to a wall. The wall was part of what used to be a chapel. The Aquila symbol was still visible above the door. Someone had written across the bottom of the execution form in red paint. The Emperor does not protect the innocent. He protects the Imperium. We are not the same thing. I took the file down, filed it properly. It was what I did, what I was trained for. Procedure mattered, even when nothing else did. In month 15, Inquisitor Marin Voth returned. Not to help. To retrieve records. She arrived on a shuttle that landed for 40 minutes. She did not bring supplies. She did not bring personnel. She brought data, recovery servitors that uploaded the Administratum database to portable storage. The entire archive. Every record of every death. I met her on the landing pad. She was taller than I expected. Augmetic eyes with silver irises, grey hair cropped short. She wore inquisitorial regalia without ornamentation, functional, practical. She looked tired. Sub-Coordinator Davros Kael, yes, Inquisitor, you submitted a query regarding procedural compliance. 14 months ago. Yes, Inquisitor. You questioned pre-dated execution authorizations. I found inconsistencies in the records. I believed clarification was appropriate. She studied me for 30 seconds without speaking. Her augmetic eyes clicked and refocused. Examining, analyzing. Walk with me. We walked through the Administratum complex. Past empty offices. Past dormitories housing 43 people in a facility designed for 4,000. Past the archive with its empty shelves. She did not speak until we reached my office. You believe I murdered innocents. I believe the paperwork suggests executions were authorized before investigations concluded. That is not what I asked. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said the thing I had not said aloud. The thing that had grown in my mind for 14 months. Yes, I believe you murdered innocents. She nodded once. I did. Sit. I sat. She remained standing. Looked out the window at the ruined hive. The ash falling. The smoke rising. The emptiness. Do you know how chaos corruption spreads? Through faith. Through doubt. Through exposure to heretical materials or entities. Through proximity. Through association. Through being in the same room as someone who whispered a prayer to the wrong God 3 years ago. Chaos is a virus that spreads through thought. You cannot test for it. You cannot screen for it reliably. By the time investigation proves corruption, the subject has infected others. So you isolate the vector. You kill them. You remove the possibility of spread. 391,000 citizens processed. 400,000 prevented from becoming corrupted. The math is simple, but they were innocent. The investigations proved nothing. The investigations proved what I already knew. That absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That caution is survival. That mercy to the individual is cruelty to the species. Her voice was flat, mechanical. She spoke like she was filing a report. No emotion, no doubt, no hesitation. You murdered children. I processed files of children 8 years old dying. I removed infection vectors. Their age is irrelevant to corruption potential. A child exposed to heresy becomes an adult who spreads it. The Imperium does not have time for nuance. Then what was the point of liberation? You killed more citizens than the cultists did. For the first time, something shifted in her expression. Not regret. Not guilt. Wariness. The cultists killed indiscriminately. I killed with purpose. I preserved a hive that would have rotted from within. That 300,000 survivors exist at all is because I acted. If I had shown mercy, investigated properly, allowed due process, this world would be lost to chaos within a generation. You would be dead. Everyone would be dead or worse. I chose a future where some survive over a future where none do. That is not justice. Justice does not scale. The Imperium is too large. Humanity too numerous. Chaos too insidious. You can have justice or you can have survival. Not both. I chose survival. She turned from the window, looked at me directly. Her augmetic eyes focused and clicked. I have served the Ordo Hereticus for 53 years. I have authorized the executions of 41 million citizens across 72 worlds. I have killed more innocents than most heretics dream of. I know what I am. I know what history will call me. But the Imperium endures because people like me make choices people like you refuse to. How do you sleep? Poorly. But I sleep better than if I had done nothing and watched the Imperium burn. She left 30 minutes later. The shuttle rose through ash and smoke and disappeared into grey sky. She took the records with her. Every execution, every name, every proof. I stood on the landing pad until the engine sound faded completely. In month 17, I stopped filing reports. The database still accepted them. Confirmation codes still appeared. But no one was reading them. No one had ever been reading them. I was documenting abandonment for an archive no one would access. Procedure without purpose. In month 19, the power failed. The geothermal generator finally gave out. No maintenance, no replacement parts, no expertise to repair it. The Administratum complex went dark. We moved operations to the upper levels where sunlight reached. I worked by daylight now, filed nothing. Managed scavenging operations without forms or protocols or proper authorization. In month 23, I found her file. Not in the archive. In the rubble of Sector 12. Someone had kept a copy when the files were stolen. Maybe kept many copies. This one was water damaged and torn, but the name was readable. Subject: Davros Kael, age 9, occupation none. Charge: proximity to cultist activity. Investigation report. Verdict: guilty. Sentence: execution. Date of sentence: day 3 of liberation. My sister, not my daughter. I did not have children, but my sister. My 9-year-old sister who hid with me in the lower levels during the uprising. Who prayed to the Emperor with me. Who trusted that the Astra Militarum would save us. They did save us. Then they killed her. For living in Sector 19. For being near cultist activity. For existing. I had filed her execution record myself. Day 47 of liberation. I processed her paperwork. Verified the signature. Catalogued her body category. Filed the report with proper cross-reference codes. I had killed her. Not with a weapon. With efficiency. With procedure. With the belief that documentation honored the dead. I sat in the ruins holding her file until the sun set. Then I burned it. Watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash. It rose into the air and mixed with all the other ash. Indistinguishable. Gone. In month 29, someone proposed abandoning the hive entirely. Moving to the agricultural zones. Trying to rebuild there. Away from the ruins. Away from the bodies. Away from the ash that never stopped falling. 3,000 citizens left, walked into the wastes. I do not know if they survived. I stayed. In month 37, the Vox relay to the Administratum database failed. No more reports. No more confirmation codes. No more proof that anyone knew we existed. We were liberated. We were forgotten. The Inquisitor was right. Those were compatible states. In month 48, the first supply ship arrived. Not for us. It was a surveyor vessel. Mapping routes through the sector. They detected the hive and sent a shuttle to investigate. 4 personnel. Tech priest. Navigator. 2 armsmen. They looked shocked when they found us. 217 citizens remained, living in the upper hive levels, surviving on scavenged food and recycled water and sheer endurance. 11 years. We had survived 11 years. The tech priest asked where the garrison was. I told him there was no garrison. That the Astra Militarum left in month 1. That we were alone. He checked his data slate. Cross-referenced coordinates. Looked confused. This world is listed as under Imperial administration, Administratum oversight, ecclesiarchy jurisdiction, full compliance status. The Administratum is me, 42 personnel at start, 7 now. The ecclesiarchy is 2 priests. Full compliance is eating rats to survive. He looked at his companions. They looked at each other. The armsman shifted uncomfortably. We will report this. Assistance will be dispatched. When? Processing time for civilian aid requests averages 6 to 9 years. We have been waiting 11. Then assistance is likely already in the approval chain. Remain faithful. The Emperor protects. They left 2 hours later. Promised to report our situation. Filed the proper forms. Followed protocol. They were good at protocol. I watched their shuttle rise through the ash. Watched until it disappeared. Then I walked back to the Administratum complex. To my office. To the empty archive. I am dead now. Not literally. Not yet. But the person I was. The sub-coordinator who believed in procedure. Who believed documentation mattered. Who believed efficiency was a form of honor. That person died the day I read my sister's file. What remains is something else. Someone who knows that the Imperium liberated us from chaos because strategic necessity demanded it. Someone who knows they abandoned us because strategic necessity did not prevent it. Someone who understands that 300,000 citizens died not because they were guilty, but because killing them was efficient. The Imperium does not value innocence. It values survival. Not our survival, its survival. We are resources, to be spent, to be forgotten, to be catalogued as acceptable losses in ledgers no one will read. In month 64, I stopped counting the months. The calendar meant nothing. Help was not coming. The Emperor did not protect us. He protected the Imperium. We were not the same thing. In month 93 I found work that mattered. Not filing reports. not processing forms, teaching the children of survivors what happened, why the ash falls, why we were abandoned, why 300,000 people died for the crime of proximity. The ecclesiarchy priests told me I was spreading doubt, undermining faith, corrupting the young with cynicism. I told them the truth was not corruption, that if faith required ignorance, it was not faith. It was obedience. They reported me to the Arbites, but there were no Arbits. They reported me to the Administratum, but I was the Administratum. They prayed for my soul. I thanked them and continued teaching. In month 117, the supply ship arrived, 6 years after the surveyor vessel, 126 years after the liberation. The Administratum had processed the request, allocated resources, dispatched aid, to a hive of 143 people. All that remained from 6 million. The ship brought food for 4,000, medical supplies for a city, reconstruction materials for a world. The captain asked where everyone was. I took him to the ash fields, to the places where we burned the bodies, to Sector 19 where my sister died, to the ruins we had turned into gardens because plants would grow in soil made from ash and bone. I showed him the efficiency of imperial justice, the mathematics of acceptable loss, the doctrine that mercy to individuals is cruelty to the species. He said he was sorry. I told him sorrow was not useful, that his ship arrived 117 months too late, that apologies did not resurrect the dead. He asked what we needed. I said we needed the Imperium to remember we existed, that worlds liberated from chaos did not liberate themselves from starvation, that the Emperor might protect the Imperium but someone had to protect the people. He promised to file the reports, to escalate through proper channels, to ensure oversight. I thanked him. I did not believe him. I had believed in oversight once. I had been wrong. The ship left 72 hours later, left supplies, left promises, left us in month 132. I am dying, not dramatically, not from violence or plague or corruption, from age, from exhaustion, from spending 11 years surviving and 13 more recording survival. I am 63 years old. I feel like I have lived centuries. I am writing this testimony not for the Administratum. They will not read it. Not for the Inquisition. They know what they did. Not for the Imperium. It does not care. I am writing this for whoever finds it. For whoever wonders what happened to Tertius Hive. For whoever reads the official records and sees liberation successful, compliance maintained, status green. The official records are lies. The truth is this: the Imperium liberated us from chaos by killing 300,000 innocents before evidence existed. Then they abandoned us to starvation because we were not strategically important. Then they sent help 126 years later to save 143 people from a population of 6 million. The Inquisitor was right. She chose survival over justice. She chose certainty over mercy. She chose to kill innocents to save the uninfected. But she was wrong about one thing. She said some would survive because of her choice. She was correct. 143 people survived. My sister was not among them. She died because proximity to cultist activity was sufficient evidence for execution. Davros Kael, age 9. Guilty of living in the wrong sector. I do not know if the Inquisitor's choice was right. I do not know if mercy would have doomed us all. I do not know if killing innocents to save others is justified when the alternative is unknowable. What I know is this: I helped. I filed the paperwork. I processed the executions. I believed procedure mattered. I believed documentation honored the dead. I was wrong. The dead do not care about paperwork. The dead care that they died for nothing. For quota efficiency. For strategic convenience. For the mathematics of acceptable loss. The Imperium teaches that the Emperor protects. But who protects us from the Imperium? I asked that question to a priest once. He said I was testing my faith. That doubt was the first step to corruption. That I should pray for clarity. I prayed. For 11 years I prayed. The Emperor did not answer. The Administratum did not answer. The Inquisition did not answer. The ash answered. It kept falling. It still falls. It will fall long after I am dead. The ash is made from people. From buildings. From everything the Imperium destroyed to save us. It falls like grey snow. It covers everything. It makes the world uniform, equal, indistinguishable. In the ash, there is no difference between the guilty and the innocent. Between the liberated and the abandoned, between salvation and damnation, there is only dust. And in 10,000 years, when Tertius Hive is finally forgotten completely, when the last record is lost and the last survivor dies and the last child who knew the story becomes ash themselves, maybe that is what the Imperium wanted all along, not justice. Not mercy. Not even survival. Just compliance. Just obedience. Just the certainty that when they tell us we are saved, we believe them, even as we starve, even as the ash falls, even as we die. I believed once. I do not believe anymore. But I remember what it felt like to believe. I remember thinking that procedure mattered. That documentation honored the dead. That efficiency was a form of respect. I was good at my job. The Administratum valued my efficiency. My efficiency killed my sister. The Imperium liberated us. Then it forgot we existed. Those are compatible states. My name is Davros Kael. I was sub-coordinator of reclamation logistics, 4th District, Tertius Hive. I processed 417,000 execution records. I believed I was honoring the dead. I was wrong. This is my testimony. This is what liberation looks like when the Imperium has more important battles to fight. This is what salvation becomes when you are not strategically valuable. This is the truth the official records will never show. I am 63 years old. I am dying. The ash still falls. I do not know if anyone will read this. I do not know if anyone cares. But I needed to write it, needed to document it. Not for the Administratum. Not for procedure, for Caris. For my sister who died at 9 years old for living in the wrong place. For 300,000 people who died before evidence existed. For 6 million souls who survived chaos only to be forgotten by the Emperor. Someone should remember. Someone should know. The Imperium does not protect the innocent. It protects itself. We are the ash that falls when those two things are not the same.